taking this problem seriously in Ohio and are doing something about it.
We are fighting this problem on a number of fronts with a determination to make a difference.
Some of the ways that we have attempted to combat the problem locally is not just with enforcement, but it is also services that we have tried to provide to those who are addicted or inmates of the correctional system. We provide long-term counseling options as well as short-term counseling options for those who are inmates, as well as long-term rehab situations that we've tried to help fund.
As far as law enforcement and decriminalizing the addict, we in our community have made a movement toward more treatment rather than sending these people to prison. Prison is not rehabilitative for the addiction survivor. And now we even have our officers being trained. We have a thing called DART, where if a person ODs, they go to the hospital and DART helps them get into treatment, not jail or prison.
Law enforcement's taken a different approach now with the heroin issue. We're focusing a lot of energy right now on treatment of the addiction. We've got drug courts in place, trying to get these folks help, trying to get them the tools to deal with the addiction themselves.
So we have protocols that we treat patients that come in for withdrawal, and basically they're PRN medications or medications that are as needed to control the symptoms, which would be some of the ones that we talked about with the nausea or the tremors or the stomach pain, the diarrhea. So we treat all of those individually as they have symptoms, and we have a specific protocol that's outlined with all those medications.
The name of the drug that I use is Vivitrol. It does come in a pill form. We do not use the pill form very often because most of the people that come in to the clinic have had a drug problem for quite some time, and maybe their drug of choice was Percocet. So we don't want to get them used to the pills because they have a choice whether to take it or not, and they could have withdrawal and not even realize what they're doing. Whereas when they get the Vivitrol, the injectable form, it stays in the system for about 28 days, and then they would return to the clinic every 28 days. With the Vivitrol injection, they would receive counseling, which of course is one of the most intricate parts of receiving the injection, because the mind and body works together. And so usually there's an underlying reason why they began taking the drugs to begin with. And so anxiety plays into that. So sometimes we will, when they come back for their second injection, we'll say, how did you do? You know, did you have any withdrawal? Do you feel like using? That's my big question to them. Do you feel like you have the need to use? And 99.9% of them say no. It made me forget the very thing I thought I wanted. And however, I am still anxious, so I treat the anxiety with a non-narcotic medication to help them with their counseling and use of the medication. The Vivitrol injection does not. It's a non-narcotic. There is not any withdrawal from that injection, so they can be on it 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. The recommended dosage is 1 year because they want to make sure that the patient's body and mind are in the same place, and that they're safe. The only problem is if you have a patient that has been court-ordered and they're not really serious about the drug and getting clean, the problem would arise when they would decide to go back and use again, because they may think that they're just going to start at the same depth of drug use that they were using prior to taking the Vivitrol injection, and that is potentially lethal to them.
That is why it's important for patients to understand that a physical medication that's being given to them is going to be one piece of their recovery. That psychological impact and the social impact for people is a great factor in why people relapse. I think when they begin to feel physically a little bit better, They think they can go out and conquer the world and that everything's going to be okay. And once they're presented with something negative or something happens in their life, they automatically go back to what they know, which was using, and that's how they've dealt with and managed to deal with their life. So we really help point them in the right direction to make sure that they understand it's not just the physical recovery, which takes a long time. That's a long process in itself, but that emotional and psychological impact is really where they have to understand. It's about relearning techniques and coping skills.
My organization, we actually have housed people for 8, 9, 10 years at a time. Not because they weren't ready or irresponsible or anything like that, but it has been around and it's been a proven practice of those that have lived through an addiction as a stepping stone, as a means of support. So that's what recovery housing or step-down housing does. It's been around since the 1800s. It's not a new concept, but most of the results are the long-term recovery results that everybody's looking for in addiction.
I have a success story of a man who came into the service to work with us here at the hospital, and he recovered. It's been almost 2 years ago now, and he has continually called in about every 2 months to give us a report and an update that he has now become a peer support for other people, and he continues to encourage people to go through treatment and understand how much his life has changed, and he is a beacon of hope.